Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. The distortion of the perception of reality is much more easier to achieve than most people realize. This is because the public's perception of reality is not shaped based upon facts nor reality. It's actually shaped by the narratives that are repetitively fed into the society. All societies perceive reality based upon the narratives that are repetitively fed into them. Therefore, the basic tool required for the distortion of reality is to merely repetitively feed false information into a society. The public at large will then start functioning based upon those false information instead of the true reality. It's what social scientists call an illusionary truth effect, and it's very convincing. This is precisely what the white ruling class have done. They've hired white social scientists and white propagandists to feed lots of false information into our society that falsely exalts whites and falsely marginalizes black people. Doing so creates and sustains false assumptions within the society that aids them in maintaining their white social capital and white social dominance over the black population. It's an unethical perception management system, a racist one. Perception management is a propaganda technique that involves altering the public's perception of reality to suit the objective of the white ruling class. It's an essential part of information warfare. The white society is literally falsely scripted to exalt whites and to falsely marginalize black people. Case, point, and proof. The white society miseducates the public to believe that Thomas Edison is responsible for lighting up the entire world. However, the hidden truth is that after Thomas Edison patented his light bulbs, no companies purchased it, no mass produced it. This is because it was deemed not efficient enough. It lit very dimly and only lasted a few minutes. The light bulb that was purchased and mass produced and its inventor dispatched around the world to oversee its installation was in fact actually invented by an African-American inventor named Lewis Latimer. He sold it to the U.S. Electric Company in 1881. The white society also miseducates the public to believe that the Wright brothers invented and flew the first aircraft. However, the hidden truth is that before the Wright brothers flew the aircraft in 1909, that a black man named Charles F. Page had already invented, patterned, and flown an aircraft 3 years earlier in 1906. The white society also miseducates the public to believe that Henry Ford invented the first automobile. However, it was actually an African-American inventor named Charles Richard Patterson that built the first automobile. The C.R. Patterson and Sons Company started out as a carriage building firm in 1873. He and his sons converted the company from a carriage business into an automobile manufacturer. They started making automobiles before Henry Ford and sold the first one for $850. It had a 4-cylinder Continental engine. C.R. Patterson automobiles were considered much more sophisticated than those of Henry Ford. However, C.R. Patterson and Sons were forced out of business by Henry Ford in 1939. It's by deliberate design that most people are unaware of these noted historical facts. These facts have been deliberately omitted from our whitewash history books because they don't fit the narrative that whites are superior to black people. The public has instead been fed whitewash lies. All you have to do is keep repeating lies through media ads, falsely scripted movies, miseducation, and before long, the majority of the population will then accept those lies and function based upon those lies rather than what's actually true. Those lies will become the truth that the public believes and then function based upon. Repetition makes false disclosures appear more truthful. It's a true social science fact. But here's the hidden true reality. After slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, and in spite of receiving no reparation and being constantly plagued by the evil injustices of continued white racism, from 1870 through 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patent applications to the U.S. Patent Office. Not only is this an extraordinary achievement under these noted circumstances, and so closely following the abolishment of slavery, but it also more than doubled the number of patents submitted by whites during the same period, in spite of the fact that African Americans made up less than 3% of the population. This scenario of Black people outpacing whites in inventing revolutionary inventions is concealed from the public by the white society's monopoly over information. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by Black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions by Black people. It's actually the genius minds of we Africans that moves the world forward. I do realize that to many people that statement sounds absolutely absurd or even laughable. Whenever lies have been told to the masses over many generational lines, the truth will sound absolutely ridiculous and its speaker will sound like a raving lunatic. Nonetheless, those who know the truth must teach. The truth is still the truth, even if many people have been brainwashed to believe the lies. The truth is that without Black people, there would exist no motors, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without Black people, we would not have the skyscrapers because Black people invented the elevator. We only have skyscrapers because Black people invented the elevator, air conditioning, and central heating, which are essential in order for people to live or work within skyscrapers. Without Black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security system, no home game cartridges. No steam engines, no traffic lights, no working light bulbs. We wouldn't have the modern color PCs, nor 3D movies. There would be no refrigerators, no central heating, no washing machines, no dry cleaning, no lawnmowers, no dryers, no refrigerated trucks. Therefore, no ice cream trucks. No blood banks, no fiber optics, no nanotechnology, no female sanitary pads, no bathroom tissue holders, no pencil sharpeners, no lawnmowers, no doorknobs, etc., etc. Black people have in fact enriched nearly every aspect of the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. Your perception is a white deception. The truth of the matter is that white people invented the patent office and have always used it to steal the intellectual property rights from Black inventors. You see, in order for Black inventors to get their inventions mass produced, they have to go before white companies. These white companies acquires the right to the invention and then places white faces in front of the technology. This scenario literally allows the white society to continue exploiting the intellectual genius of Black people while maintaining the perception that it's actually white people that are inventing most inventions that move our society forward. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. According to white social scientists, true power lies in only what's perceived as being true, because people function based upon their perception of what's true. Therefore, merely creating the perception that most inventions comes from the minds of Caucasians, when they're in fact coming from the minds of Black people, It's all that's required for maintaining white social dominance and white social capital over the black population. And in case you don't know, it was ancient Africans that introduced science, writing, math, and philosophy to the world. The world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, human prosthetic, mathematical tools, medical journals are all located in Africa. Africans invented the wheel, paper, the calendar, the concept of 24 hours in a day. Africans are the first to build in stone and the first to smelt metal. Furthermore, long before the Europeans invaded and enslaved we Africans, it was we Africans, when we called ourselves Moors, that civilized Europe. This even includes introducing the daily bath to Europeans. Queen Isabella of Spain bragged that she'd only bathed twice in her whole life. Queen Elizabeth I claimed that she was the cleanest woman in all of Europe for reportedly bathing once a year. This non-bathing practice was discontinued by the Europeans after Africans introduced them to the daily bath. Your perception is a white deception. According to white social scientists, in order for a dominant group to maintain its position of social dominance over the subordinate population, the history taught within a society must exalt the dominant group above the subordinate group. Doing so endorses the dominant group's current position of social dominance over the subordinate population. This is why the history we've been taught has been totally whitewashed. Don't be fooled. If the oppressors were truly superior, they wouldn't have to distort so many facts and tell so many lies in order to convey it. Nor would they have to work so hard and unrelentingly behind the scenes to handicap those whom they claim are inferior. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. To free your mind, you must start learning social science. Learn the social sciences that the white society deploys for maintaining their social dominance over the black population. If you're one of those black people speaking negatively of our racial group, it's because you are mentally enslaved by the white society. One love and peace.